Hey guys, Colleen here, and on the bench today I have an awesome amp that I'm so thrilled to show you. It's one of the oldest amps I've had in the shop in quite some time, so I'm really excited to make a video showcasing the repair. So without further ado, let's get into it. This is one of the oldest amps that I've had in the shop recently. I believe it's a 1942 Rickenbacher 200A. This amp was built in Los Angeles and likely has not left Southern California in its lifetime. This amp would have paired with some of the earliest solid body electric guitars ever produced, the Rickenbacher Electro Spanish or the Vibrola Spanish, which is known for its motorized vibrato tailpiece designed by Doc Kaufman, who later went on to work with Leo Fender. It's said that around 90 of these amps were made, but who really knows the true number? This amp has two inputs and one volume control. It has a power switch, surprisingly a fuse, and a two-prong power cord, which I will be upgrading to a grounded three-prong for safety. This amp is truly a time capsule, nearly untouched inside since it was built. It's a beautiful example of functional history, and my goal, as always, is to make the amp safe and reliable while maintaining as much original character as possible. These are two filter capacitors which are mounted in vertical cans. We are so lucky to have what I believe are the original Sylvania tubes. We have an 83V rectifier tube, two 6L6 output tubes, and one 6N7. This field coil speaker appears to have the original cone, though it's hard to say for sure. I'm dating this amp around 1942 due to the speaker's date code. So what was happening in 1942, almost 75 years ago? A lot was changing here in the US because factories were starting to focus on manufacturing military equipment for World War II. Women were entering the workforce to take the place of the men who were serving in the war. In pop culture, one of my favorite childhood movies, Bambi, came out that year. The Glenn Miller Orchestra was at the top of the pops, and the Chrysler Corporation made the DeSoto, which was a sleek and futuristic automobile. But, anyways, I love to appreciate the small details on old amps, like the branding on this power transformer and the crackle paint on the chassis. So I'm going to recap the electrolytics. These two cans are each one 10 microfarad filter cap. I will install individual capacitors in the chassis, but will leave the cans mounted for aesthetics. I like to use F&T filter capacitors, which I source from Amplified Parts. Viewers of my channel get 10% off. Click the link below and then use the code FAZIO10 at checkout. I like to use Amplified Parts for my caps, resistors, tubes, eyelet boards, knobs, chassis, speakers, you name it, they got it. So go check them out for all your amp repair and amp building needs. To add a little support, I like to adhere the capacitor to a small piece of foam. I'll scrape away at the chassis a little bit so that when I bring out the big iron to solder to the ground, the solder will flow into the chassis better. These caps are so old and cool. So weirdly, we have two 2 microfarad caps wired in series, which equals 1 microfarad total. Amplified Parts also has a lot of useful tech articles, including this capacitor, parallel or series calculator. I'm going to remove these capacitors to make some room for the other 10 microfarad cap, and then I will install a single 1 microfarad cap to replace them. Sometimes I'll use terminal strips to add more connection points. And now that the 10 microfarad caps are in, I will install this 1 microfarad Sprague capacitor. I'm going to get rid of the 2-prong power cord and get the 3-prong one installed. Now I'm going to test the amp and see if there's anything else to address. I'll power it up slowly on my Variac to make sure that the amp isn't drawing excessive current or smoking or anything like that. So we can hear that the volume pot is dirty, so I'll clean that up. I also noticed that these 2 coupling caps are leaking DC voltage. This is fairly common with really old amps. One side of the cap will see higher voltage, but coupling caps should pass the audio signal, not the DC voltage. So I'll replace these 0.1 microfarad caps as well. And that does it, folks. After I resolder and clean everything, the amp is good to go. I'm thrilled to be able to keep in a lot of the original components and tubes. I love amps from this era. They're so pure and raw. Let's check it out. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you next time.